Ahoy ahoy! Welcome to another video about my 1850s project. This time, I'm actually getting into making the corset. My mock-up is done, my fitting is done, and I'm good to go. So in the other video, I had more of my research and my plan, so I'm not going to spend too much time talking about that. The overview is I'm using the Redthreaded 1860s gored corset pattern, and I also got their supply kit. The corset will be made out of coutil for its strength layer, steel boning, and then for the fashion layer, I have a cotton sateen. I am going off script in terms of historical accuracy for a few things, namely the color. My sateen is black and I'm doing red flossing with it. The only reason for this is I got it in my head that I really wanted a black and red gothy corset. And while later Victorian, you did see black corsets, you did see brightly colored flossing. That was really the 1890s. Loved a black corset, loved bright flossing. Didn't really see that in the mid-century. At least I haven't seen it. I've seen basically every color but black. I've seen a lot of flossing in white and one that was in black, but you know what? I only do this to make myself happy. And what's going to make myself happy is a black and red gothy looking corset. And I mean, like, I'm making the dress out of a curtain, so I think, obsessive historical accuracy is probably not a worthwhile goal at this point. So let's get going.
I cut all the pieces in both the black sateen and the white coutil and basted the layers together by hand, which takes 5 ever, but really makes a difference in keeping everything smooth. To install the hook side of the busk, a facing is sewn to the front with gaps for the hooks to go through. I also whip-stitched the openings by hand to reinforce them. On the stud side, I poked holes for them to go through, and the raw edge is folded around the busk and stitched down. Hello, bust gores, my old friend. This time I basted them in place first. I also felled down the raw edge and whip-stitched around that tricky bit at the point. This is also a detail seen in surviving corsets. Next, I sewed in the boning channels on the front piece and the side piece. Yay! Finally time to sew a seam! The front was sewn to the back with the raw edges felled. For the hip piece, I hand basted it first because it is so swervy and curvy, and then I stitched the seam and felled the edge. There are 2 more boning channels to sew in, and then it's on to the lacing strips. These are worked separately until the very end. That's more of a theatrical technique than a historical one, but it aligns with my goals for this project. After all the bones were in place, I cut bias strips from the black sateen, bound the edges, and finally stitched the back lacing panels in place. The final step is the red flossing, and then it's ready to lace up and try on.
So here it is, all done. First of all, I'll talk about things I'm not thrilled with, and these are all GAN problems. Some of my top stitching and my flossing is a little sloppy, but whose fault is that? Also, I think it is hair long. I feel like because it's springing out here, I feel like it should be maybe a little bit more up here, but it's fine. This is like super comfortable. Some of that business, and while the length fit might not be perfect, can you see that in the back? It's nice and even. It feels great. I love this shape because it has that nice cut. It's not a super big hip spring, but again, having a really lean, muscular form, I'm not very shapeable. I'm just gonna unwrap this long ribbon. It's there. Now you can see a little better the hip spring. So, corset, check. I'm gonna just work on some side projects a little bit, but when I go back to the 1850s, I'm going to be making the cage crinoline, which I am super excited about. If you want to see more of that, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye now.